I'll admit it, I didn't think I was gonna like any of y'all. But now, I like a lot of you. Before we hop into this ranking of the Ren family from Magi, please do me a favor and leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your own thoughts on the Ren family and their ranking in the comment section down below. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, Psycho the Pencil here, and here we are to rank the Ren family, aka my favorite family in Magi. And I know there's not much competition, because literally if you go to the wiki, they're like the only family in Magi, like the only one that actually has a last name, which is kind of cool, but also kind of whack. I wish there were more families, but regardless of that, let's rank them. Now, I do have some criteria. I'm not going to include Hakuriku or Gyoken / Arba because I feel like they're kind of cheating. I also do plan to talk about them a lot on their own. To be fair, I'm going to talk about all these characters on their own. Well, not all of them. Maybe all of them. Who knows? I want to talk a lot about these characters, but basically, I'm not going to include those two because they kind of be cheating, and you know who'd be at the top of the list. So, I don't know. I didn't want to do that. So, there's going to be the other 5 members of the family that are actually relevant to the narrative. So no, I will not be including any of the backstory Ren family members like the previous first emperor or the older brothers. I'm not going to talk about them, but I am going to talk about the rest of the family. So let's hop right into it with number 5. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but Hakuei was like mad disappointing to me. Like, I don't know, I really was excited to see more of her character after the Koga clan arc. I was like, wow, it seems like a really interesting character. Can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the narrative. This is one of the first king vessels that we actually meet. It was really interesting. However, then she does nothing, like legitimately nothing. Even when she shows up to Magastat to help out against the medium, like she's one of the least interesting characters there, especially compared to her other family members. So I'm like, oh, well that kind of sucks. And then by the time we actually do get to see her again, it's not even her anymore. It's literally just Arba. And as much as I like Arba, I'm like, darn it, I want to see more Hakuei. Like, that's the thing. Hakuei has a fantastic introduction to me. I think she does a great job doing what she does. I think she has loads of potential and honestly could have been a really interesting character if given more time, if actually given time to see how she felt about the entire situation with her older brothers and stuff like that. If she had talked to Hakuriku more and just wasn't like a pawn for Sinbad. Oh, there's so many different things that go into the idea of what Hakuei could have been that just didn't happen. It's like a lot of wasted potential that I have. It's a lot of the issues I have of wasted potential with someone like Morgiana, where like really interesting setup, really cool backstory, all that great stuff, got so little of her that it's kind of irrelevant. And that heavily disappoints me because in comparison to a lot of her other family members, she's literally just the least interesting. Like verbatim, the least interesting, gets the least amount of screen time as herself, at least. She gets a decent amount of screen time as Arba, but then she just falls asleep, and then when she gets restored right at the end of the narrative, it's a back-end part, and she's just with everyone else fighting against the towers. So she gets so little screen time, so little interesting character stuff after the point of her introduction that I'm like, she just doesn't do as good as the rest, and that's kind of sad. But enough ragging on Hakuei. I may do a video on how to improve her, but like that's the thing. That's a weird thing. I feel like I know what the mangaka was doing. I know what Otaka Sensei was thinking with her character, but at the same time, I still wanted more. Like, I understand what you were going for, but like I just want more. What's the problem? But regardless of that, let's move on from Hakuei to number 4. Now, this is no fault of Koha's own, but just like his cousin, my man kind of gets sidelined, like pretty darn hard. Like he has a really interesting backstory. He has a really interesting introduction. He's someone who's never supposed to rise to power. He still got a king vessel somehow just through the rise of dungeons thanks to the help of Judar. He has so much extra good help to him and all that's great. However, he's not as interesting as his older brothers because his older brothers either have more interesting character dynamics, more interesting character interactions in the sense of his older brother like Kome, and or he's just the least interesting. I'm not even gonna lie. Like he had a very cool introduction basically when he showed up and Aladdin ended up traveling in his caravan and you had all these interesting interactions. You saw how he was treated, and then you learn about his backstory, about how he basically took all the rejects from all the different cores of the Koa Empire and was like, yeah, come on, roll with me. We all deserve to live. We all got a life to live. Let's go do it. All that really cool. However, he's basically, after that point, just supplementary to his older brothers and his cousins. And I don't know, like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because obviously not everyone can be a main character. That's just something everyone's got to accept. But the thing is, I feel like he could have done more. Like, when Kome was pulled off the island to be the strategist, I was hoping, like, maybe something along the lines of Koha coming back and, like, being a trainer or something like that, or, like, doing something different. Like the fact that he was kind of just locked on the island for the rest of the series disappoints me. The fact that he honestly, like, as cool as the sword expansion was for his gen equip, compared to every other gen equip in his family, it's the least interesting. Like, except for like Paimon. But other than that, like the massive expanding shield he made, cool. His fight, cool. But then that's about it. He doesn't do much, and I think that's the main reason I don't like him. Like the reason he ranks above Hakuei for me is because at least every time he's on screen, he's himself. Every time I get Koha panels, that's Koha himself doing his best, doing his darn work. And it's nice hearing how much he cares for people. But all of his older brothers or older family members, or not even older, just his family members, they also have their own little interesting motivations and backstories and stuff like that. Make me like them more. So I'm sitting here like, I don't know, Koha. Like, he does a fantastic job at what he's supposed to do. He's a great supplementary character. However, outside of that role, he just doesn't do much, and that doesn't do it for me. But enough of that. Let's not rag on Koha anymore. Let's move on to number 3. Alright, so I will give Koen the most credit. My man's very, very, very respectable. My man's a menace, a beast amongst men, wielder of 3 Jins all at once, that pseudo Sinbad type energy. He's a man. Like when he showed up to Magastat and like literally heard the offer that Aladdin gave him and was like, everyone pull up right now, I need these answers. And like he called to every other one of his family members and they were all like, you got it, boss. I guess I'm pulling up. All right, whatever you say, good sir. And they all showed up. Like him bring, like that's the thing. What I like about Koen the most is he commands such a presence to him, almost akin to Sinbad. But like while Sinbad has like cheat natural charisma that everyone just tends to follow, like you can tell people follow Koen Ren because he is just a menace. Like they can feel his alpha energy exuding from him, and thus they just bow and follow. Like the reason all of his people believe he should be king is because he has the authority, he has the presence to him. He's a very powerful person, and you can tell that. Like when he freely just terraforms the planet in the fight against the medium. Like he just activates another one's gen equips, buries directly into the earth, rises up the magma, and then just starts absorbing it. And then he just starts commanding Alibaba around. He has this presence to him that makes others want to follow him because of the sheer amount of presence he just brings with him. And I think that's great. I think he's mad intimidating, especially when he gets into one of his crazed battle lusts. And I love how every single one of his family members are like, I mean, yeah, he's a real cool guy, but once he's attached to something, once he's driven, well, you ain't taking the wheel away from him. And this crazy battle-driven side of him, it's one of my favorite parts of him. Like actually seeing him go all out for his desires, it's really great. And I love how he challenges multiple characters. Like he challenges Alibaba, he challenges Aladdin, he challenges these 2 characters to think in ways they just hadn't thought of before because they never had to. But now, it's time for them to think. It's time for them to open their fat brains, their third eyes. It's time for them to rock out. And I like how he does that. He challenges characters while still being an interesting character in and of himself. Why isn't he higher? I'm just biased. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Like if I were to be completely objective, he should be number 2. Maybe not number 1. Like I think I'm kind of objective with number 1, but at the same time, maybe not. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna go in depth with him on his own video. And that's the weird thing. Like this is gonna be really like quick, clear-cut bursts of what I like about them without going into much detail, because I do plan to make videos on pretty much all 5 of these characters, whether it be their wasted potential, whether it be what more they could have done, whether it be how great they are, and so on and so forth. So let's move on to number 2. Alright, so anyone, when they were reading Homei's stuff, did they get like L vibes? Like 100% L vibes or something? So, like, my man Komei brings this energy about him. Like, he's obviously not the leader type. He has a king vessel, but that's like artificially given because Judara was around just popping up temples whenever they needed them. Not temples, palaces. But the thing, I don't even care about that. You wanna know why? Because Komei's a menace. Like when he first pops up and he's like, fine, I guess I'll show up and help. And then my man just teleports a whole mountain on top of the medium. I'm like, whoa. Because one of the things, I love teleportation. I love transport stuff. It's always really cool to me. And the way he uses it by literally making constellations and dropping it on people, and the reason the reason they even beat the medium is because Komei was there, like specifically directing their attacks with his specific portals, so the medium couldn't absorb the Magi out of him. Oh my, the Magoi out of him. All that really, really cool stuff. I love his introduction. Then when he comes in and he's still like this lazy kind of like, I really don't care, when Koen calls him in to talk with Alibaba, and then he's like, oh, by the way, the person who ordered the subjugation and take over your country was me. what you want to do about it. Like that energy when he just suddenly flips it up. Like Alibaba's like, oh, it's this guy. He doesn't seem too impressive. And then Kome is like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm the exact reason your country sucks now. What you gonna do about it, little boy? And it's just, I love, like, he is the character that does so much for the narrative that, like, if you were to remove Kome, a lot of things wouldn't happen. Like, the entire co-trading empire would have failed. They probably would have lost the fight against the medium. The entire process of the war, the entire civil war in Co would have went completely differently without him. He's a master strategist, master tactician, master businessman. My man's a master everything. He's just a little bit lazy, and I think that's fantastic. Definitely going to talk about him in his own video, but let's move on to number 1. Y'all know I had to put her up here. You know, I gotta put respect on her name. Kokioku's a menace, and I think that's fantastic. Here's the thing. I'm definitely gonna cut this super short because I don't want to like go fully in depth on my real thoughts on Kokioku. But let's just say she has one of the best character arcs in all of Magi. And she has one of the best amounts of character suffering in all of Magi. And I like it. I like it a lot. Y'all know me. If a character has a good arc, if a character has good development, if a character has good anything, then they're gonna take the top of some list for me. If they're really good at what they do, if they have a lot of good moments, if they have a decent amount of screen time, and honestly, I think shockingly enough, Kokioku has like the most amount of screen time in her family outside of literally maybe Koen and maybe Hakuryu. Because I don't count Arba. Like, Arba's pseudo member of their family. Like, Gyoken doesn't show up that much, but Arba shows up a lot. And she's technically in their family. But really, Kokioku gets a lot of screen time. She has a fantastic arc, fantastic development, fantastic suffering, all that great stuff. Definitely gonna go more in depth. That's my top 5. I want to keep this really short because I just know I'm going to talk about these people in depth. But what do you guys think? How would you rank these 5 members in particular? I know a lot of y'all Hakuryu stands out there. Y'all gonna come out the woodwork and say he should have been number 1, and really he would have been. Not even gonna lie, if I included him. And shockingly enough, Arba probably would have been number 3. But regardless of that, tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.